I thought I knew my husband completely, but when I accidentally read messages revealing he had been hiding a part of his life from me for years, I didn't know how to feel or who I could trust anymore. It started with his phone buzzing on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. The screen lit up with a text from Alex, "Just can't wait to see you tomorrow." Nothing suspicious, right? Alex could be anyone, a coworker, a friend, completely innocent, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way he'd been protective of his phone lately, or how he'd started working late more often. Maybe it was the new Kalan I didn't recognize, or the way he'd been distant during our conversations about starting a family. I told myself I was being paranoid. Mark and I had been together for 8 years, married for 3. We met in college, built a life together brick by brick. He was my safe harbor, my best friend, the man who brought me coffee every morning and remembered to DVR my shows when I worked late. But that text sat in my mind like a splinter. The next morning, he left his laptop open while rushing to get ready. I wasn't snooping, I was just closing it to move it off the dining table where we were supposed to eat breakfast together like we did every Saturday. That's when I saw it. A conversation thread with Alexandra Chen that went back 2 years. 2 years of daily messages, foodios. Heart emojis scattered through conversations that were far too intimate for friendship. "Missing you already," from 3 days ago. "You looked incredible last night," from last week. "I can't keep doing this but I can't stop either," from last month. My hands shook as I scrawled up. The messages painted a picture I couldn't have imagined. Business trips that weren't business trips, late nights that weren't at the office, a whole relationship existing parallel to our marriage. The worst part wasn't the emotional affair, it was how detailed it all was. They had inside jokes. They talked about books, shared music, discussed dreams and fears, all the things I thought Mark only shared with me. When he came downstairs, hair still damp from the shower, I was sitting at the table staring at his laptop screen. "Jess." His voice cracked when he saw what I was looking at. "I can explain." But there was no explanation that could make this okay. No words that could undo what I'd learned. 2 years, Mark, 2 years. He sat down across from me, his face pale. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been living a double life. We've been talking about buying a house, about growing old together, and you've been." I couldn't even finish the sentence. I never meant for it to happen. We worked together, and she was going through a divorce, and I was just trying to be a friend. Friends don't send photos like this. I turned the laptop toward him, showing him evidence of his own betrayal. Friends don't talk about missing each other's bodies. The fight that followed was the worst of our marriage. He cried. I screamed. He begged for forgiveness. I his coffee mug against the wall and watched it shatter. He swore it was over. He said he'd blocked her number, deleted social media, would find a new job if that's what it took. He said he loved only me, that she meant nothing, that it was just a mistake that spiraled out of control. But the damage was done. The man I trusted completely had been lying to my face for 2 years. Every "I love you," every kiss goodbye, every intimate moment we shared, all of it had been contaminated by his secret life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't look at him without seeing her name on his phone, their photos together, the way he smiled at her messages the same way he used to smile at mine. That's when I made the decision that would destroy everything. If Mark could have a secret life, so could I. I wasn't thinking Clue as angry, humiliated. I wanted him to feel what I was feeling, that crushing betrayal, that sense that your whole reality was built on lies. So I downloaded dating apps. Not to find love, not even for revenge exactly. I just wanted to feel desired by someone who wasn't lying to me. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be chosen, to be special to someone. My profile said I was separated. Technically true, we were sleeping in different rooms, barely speaking except to argue. I used photos from before I found out about Alexandra when I still smiled like I believed in happy endings. The matches came quickly. Messages from men who called me beautiful, who wanted to know everything about me, who didn't know I was broken inside. I told myself I was just looking, just window shopping. Just reminding myself that I was still attractive, still worth wanting. But looking turned into chatting, chatting turned into flirting, and flirting led me to Ryan. Ryan was everything Mark wasn't. Spontaneous where Mark was charming, where Mark was awkward, confident where Mark was insecure. He owned a restaurant downtown, had traveled the world, spoke 3 languages. Our first coffee date was supposed to be just coffee, but he made me laugh for the first time in weeks. He looked at me like I was fascinating, not like the broken woman I felt like at home. "You seem sad," he said as we walked to our cars. Beautiful, but sad. I almost told him everything right then. About Mark, about Alexandra, about how I was drowning in betrayal and didn't know how to swim back to shore. Instead I kissed him. It was supposed to be just a kiss, just proof that I was still desirable, still capable of making someone want me. But it felt like coming alive after months of feeling dead inside. When I got home, Mark was waiting at the kitchen table with flowers and a bottle of wine. "I made dinner reservations," he said. "That place you love downtown. I thought maybe we could talk about trying again." I looked at him and felt nothing but rage. How dare he try to fix this with dinner and flowers? How dare he act like 2 years of lies could be erased with romance? "I'm not hungry," I said, walking past him toward the stairs. "Jess, please. I know I messed up, but we can get through this. We can go to counseling. We can what? Pretend it never happened. Pretend I don't know about every message, every photo, every lie you've told me for 2 years. He followed me upstairs, desperate. "I'll do anything. I'll quit my job tomorrow. I'll give you passwords to everything. You'll what? Make me forget that our entire marriage has been a joke." That night I lay in the guest room staring at my phone. Ryan had texted, "Can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again?" I stared at that message for an hour. I knew what I was about to would change everything. I knew it would make me just as bad as Mark, maybe worse. But I was drowning, and Ryan felt like the only hand reaching down to pull me up. I typed back, "Tomorrow," And just like that, I crossed a line I never thought I'd cross. I became the cheater instead of just the cheated on, the person I swore I'd never become. What started as revenge became something much worse. Ryan and I began meeting twice a week. Coffee dates turned into lunch dates turned into dinner dates turned into long drives where we talked about everything except the fact that I was still married. He made me feel alive again. With Ryan, I wasn't the broken woman who found devastating messages on her husband's laptop. I was mysterious, desirable, worth pursuing. He brought out a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. The version of me from before marriage, before routine, before I became half of a couple instead of a whole person. You're different, Ryan said one evening as we walked along the waterfront. There's something you're not telling me. My stomach dropped. We'd been seeing each other for 3 weeks and I'd managed to avoid talking about my home life entirely. As far as he knew, I lived alone in an apartment across town. What do you mean? You never invite me over. You never talk about your friends, your family, your past. It's like you materialized out of nowhere 3 weeks ago. I could have told him the truth then. Could have explained about Mark, about the betrayal, about how I was him to feel human again. Maybe he would have understood. Maybe he would have been okay with being my escape from reality. Instead I lied. I'm just private. Bad breakup recently. Still getting over it. He stopped walking and turned to face me. How bad? Bad enough that I'm not ready to talk about it yet. He nodded, accepting this like he accepted everything about me. That's what I loved about Ryan. He never pushed, never demanded more than I was willing to give. So different from Mark, who always wanted to analyze everything, discuss our relationship to. That night I went home to find Mark cooking dinner. He'd been trying so hard since I found out about Alexandra. Flowers every few days, surprise dates, constant apologies. He deleted all his social media accounts, changed jobs, started seeing a therapist. But every gesture felt hollow. How could I trust anything he did when I now knew how easily he could lie? How was work? He asked, not looking up from the stove. Fine. I sat at the kitchen island watching him cook the salmon I used to love. Now everything felt contaminated. How many times had he cooked this same meal while texting Alexandra? How many conversations had we had over dinner while his mind was somewhere else entirely? Martinez thinks it would be good if you came to a session with me. She says couples therapy could really help us work through this. I almost laughed. Couples therapy. Like our problem was communication or different love languages, not the fact that both of us were now cheating. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. He finally looked at me, his eyes pleading. Jess, it's been 2 months. I've done everything you asked. I changed jobs, contact completely, started therapy. What else can I do? You can give me time. But time wasn't what I needed. Time wasn't going to erase the images in my head or rebuild the trust he'd shattered. Time wasn't going to make me stop thinking about Ryan's laugh, or the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. The next day, Ryan suggested we take a weekend trip to the mountains. His friend had a cabin, he said. We could hike, relax, just be together without the pressure of stolen hours between other obligations. I knew I should say no. A weekend away would mean lying to Mark, creating an elaborate story about where I was going. It would mean crossing another line in what was already a completely inappropriate relationship. But when Ryan looked at me with those hopeful eyes, when he talked about waking up to mountain views and cooking breakfast together, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. I'd love to, I heard myself saying. I told Mark I was going on a girls' weekend with my college friends. He was so eager to trust me, so desperate to believe we were healing that he didn't question it. Even helped me pack. Have fun, he said, kissing my forehead. You deserve some time with friends. The guilt hit me like a physical. Here he was trying so hard to rebuild what he'd broken, and I was about to spend a weekend in a cabin with another man. But I pushed the guilt away. He'd had 2 years with Alexandra, I deserved this. The cabin was everything Ryan had promised, isolated, beautiful, romantic in a way that made my chest ache. We cooked together, hiked through trails lined with fall colors, sat by the fire talking about dreams and fears and futures. For 2 days I pretended I wasn't married, pretended I was just a woman falling for a man who adored her, pretended my real life was the lie instead of the other way around. On Sunday morning as we packed to leave, Ryan pulled me close. I know you're not ready to talk about your past, but I need you to know something. I'm falling in love with you, Jess. Whatever happened before, whatever you're running from, I want to help you heal from it. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Love. He thought he was falling in love me, but he was falling in love with a fiction. A version of me that only existed in stolen moments away from my real life. Ryan, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. I kissed him instead of answering. Because what could I say? That I was falling for him too. That I thought about him every morning when I woke up next to my husband. That being with him was the only time I felt like myself anymore. Or the truth that I was using him to avoid dealing with my broken marriage. That everything between us was been lies, that I was just as much a cheater as the husband I despised. When I got home Sunday evening, Mark was waiting with takeout from my favorite Thai place. How was the weekend? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Good, really good. He nodded, but something in his expression had changed. There was a wariness there that hadn't been before, a new tension in his shoulders. Jessica called looking for you yesterday. Said she hadn't heard from you in months and wanted to catch up. My turn to ice. Jessica was my college roommate friend I'd supposedly been camping with all weekend. If she'd called looking for me. Oh, I managed. I must have forgotten to tell her I changed my number. Mark studied my face for a long moment. Must have. That night, I lay in bed thinking about Line's words, about love and healing and the future he imagined for us, about the look in Mark's eyes when he mentioned Jessica's call. I was living in a house of cards, and every lie made it more fragile. Eventually, it would all come crashing down, but instead of stopping, instead of coming clean and trying to save what was left of my marriage, I made another choice that would haunt me forever. I decided to leave Mark for Ryan. Not because I loved Ryan more, though maybe I did. Not because Ryan was better for he felt like it. But because living the lie was me, and running away seemed easier than facing the truth. The next morning while Mark was at work, I started packing. I told myself I was choosing love over duty, passion over security, my true self over the person I'd become in my marriage. What I was really choosing was destruction over healing, lies over truth, the easy way out over the hard work of rebuilding what we'd both broken. By evening, my bags were packed and hidden in the closet. I had a plan to leave while Mark was at therapy on Thursday, to text him from Ryan's apartment and explain everything over the phone like a coward. I had no idea that Mark had been planning something too. Something that would change everything before I could run away. Something that would make my betrayal worse than I ever imagined possible. Thursday arrived gray and cold, like the weather knew what was coming. Mark left for therapy at noon, kissing my cheek like he had every Thursday for the past month. I watched him drive away, knowing it would be the last time him as his wife instead of his ex-wife. I'd rehearsed what I would say in the text message. Something about needing space, about how we'd both made mistakes, about how sorry I was for everything. I'd written and rewritten it a dozen times, trying to find words that would last, though I knew no words could make this painless. My bags were by the front door. Ryan was waiting at his apartment with groceries for the dinner we'd planned to celebrate my freedom. In my mind, I was already gone. Then Mark's car pulled back into the driveway. I froze in the hallway, suitcase in hand like a child caught stealing cookies. Through the window I could see him sitting in the car, his head in his hands. He wasn't moving, just sitting there like he was gathering courage for something. When he finally came inside, his eyes were red. Therapy got cancelled, he said, then stopped when he saw my suitcase. Going somewhere, the lie died in my throat. After months of deception, I couldn't manage even one more. How long? His voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear him. How long have you been cheating on me? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. I could have denied it, could have said the suitcase was for a work trip, that he was being paranoid, that he was guilt over Alexandra was making him see things that weren't there. Instead I told the truth. 2 months. He nodded like he'd expected this answer. Ryan Martinez. My stomach dropped. How did you? Dacre Martinez is his sister. Was his sister. She won't see me anymore because of the conflict of interest. His laugh was hollow. Funny how these things work out, isn't it? My therapist's brother is sleeping with my wife. I sank onto the couch, the weight of what I'd done finally hitting me. Mark, don't you dare apologize, not when you were about to leave without even saying goodbye. He was right. I'd planned to text him from across town, to explain everything from the safety of Ryan's apartment where I wouldn't have to see his face when his world collapsed. I found out about Alexandra and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle feeling like such a fool, so you decided to make me feel like one instead. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. I was just so broken and he made me feel special, desired, like you mattered. Mark swore. Trust me, I know exactly how he made you feel. It's the same way Alexandra made me feel. The parallel hit me like a slap. All this time I told myself I was different, that my affair was justified by his betrayal, that I was the wrong party seeking comfort. But sitting there with my suitcase packed, about to abandon my marriage for another man, I realized the truth. I wasn't different from Mark at all. I was exactly the same. The difference is, Mark continued, I never fell in love with her. I never planned to leave you for her. What we had was wrong, but it was just escape. You're leaving me for him. I don't know if I love him, I whispered. But you're willing to destroy our marriage to find out. He was right. I'd been telling myself this was about healing, about finding myself, about choosing happiness. But really I was just running away from the hard work of rebuilding what we'd both broken. Dacre Martinez showed me something today, before she had to drop me as a patient, a study about marriages that survive infidelity. Do you know what the key factor is? I shook my head. Both parties have to want to rebuild. Both people have to choose the marriage over the affair. He looked at my suitcase. You've made your choice, Mark. Maybe we can. No. His voice was final. I spent 2 years lying to you, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But you looked me in the eye every day for 2 months while I begged for forgiveness, while I went to therapy, while I tried to earn back your trust, and the whole time, you were planning to leave me for another man. The truth of it was devastating. While he'd been working to save our marriage, I'd been working to escape it. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Can't wait to start our new life together. I love you. Mark saw me glance phone and somehow knew what the message said. Does he know you're married? The question I'd been dreading. No. So you've been lying to him too, building a relationship on the nation of lies you're accusing me of. I couldn't argue because he was right. I'd created an elaborate fiction for Ryan just like Mark had done with Alexandra. I'd told myself it was different because I was leaving Mark anyway, but that was just another lie to make myself feel better. What do you want me to do? The question came out as a whisper. I want you to go. You've already left in every way that matters. Your bags are packed, your new life is waiting. Don't make this harder by pretending you want to stay. But, no buts, Jess. You made your choice. Live with it. He walked upstairs, leaving me alone with my suitcase and my shame. I heard his bedroom door close, heard the lock turn. In the space of 10 minutes, my marriage was over. I drove to Ryan's apartment in a daze. He was waiting with champagne and flowers, ready to celebrate my freedom. When I told him I was married, that I'd been lying about my living situation, that my husband had just found out about us, he went very still. You're married. His voice was flat. Separated. We've been separated for months. That's why I couldn't talk about it, why I couldn't have you over. I didn't know how to explain. You're married. He repeated. I'm the other man in an affair. It's not like that. Our marriage was already over. He cheated first. He broke the trust first. Ryan set down the champagne and walked to the window. My ex-wife had an affair. I know what that kind of pain looks like. My heart sank. Ryan. I can't do this. I can't be the person who destroys someone's marriage, even if it was already broken, even if he deserves it. But we love each other. You said, I thought I loved you. But I loved a version of you that doesn't exist. The real you is married. The real you lies to people claims to care about. The words were like physical blows. Please, don't do this. I left him for you. I gave up everything for you. You gave up everything for a fantasy. We both did, within an hour. I was alone in a hotel room with my suitcases and my phone full of missed calls from Mark's family, from mutual friends who'd heard the news, from my own parents demanding to know what had happened. The story spread through our social circle like wildfire. Mark's affair, my affair, the dramatic ending to what I had thought was a solid marriage. People took sides. Some blamed Mark for cheating first, others blamed me for leaving him for another man. Most just avoided us both. I moved back in with my parents at 32 years old, sleeping in my childhood bedroom surrounded by high school photos and participation trophies. The life I'd built with Mark, our house, our friends, our routines, our plans, all of it was gone. My parents tried to be supportive, but I could see the disappointment in their eyes. They'd loved Mark, had considered him the son they never had. Now family dinners were awkward affairs where no one mentioned my marriage or my future or the grandchildren they'd been hoping for. Work became unbearable. I told a few close colleagues about Mark's affair, looking for sympathy and support. When they found out I'd been having one too, the sympathy dried up. I was no longer the wronged wife deserving of compassion. I was just another cheater who destroyed her marriage. Within 6 months, I'd quit my job and moved across the country, trying to escape the whispers and the constant reminders of everything I'd lost. Now I live alone in a studio apartment in Seattle, working remotely for a company where no one knows my story. I haven't dated anyone since Ryan. Haven't even tried. How do you start a relationship built on truth when you're so practiced at lying? Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed. If I'd put the suitcase away, told Mark about Ryan, and suggested we both start over completely. If we'd gone to couples therapy together instead of separately, worked through our betrayal side by side, instead of using them as weapons against each other. Maybe we could have survived. Maybe the marriage that came and have been side would have been stronger than what we'd had before. Or maybe we would have destroyed each other slowly instead of quickly. I'll never know, because I choose the easy way out. I chose running over rebuilding, lies over truth, the fantasy of a new life over the hard work of healing the old one. Mark remarried last year. I found out through social media, though I told myself I wasn't looking. His new wife seems lovely, a teacher who volunteers at animal shelters and bakes cookies for her neighbors. Everything I used to be before became the kind of person who abandons her marriage for a man she barely knows. Ryan moved to Portland, according to his Instagram. He's dating someone now too, a nurse who probably never lied to him about her living situation or her marital status, someone who deserves the love he tried to give me. I destroyed 2 good men because I couldn't handle being uncomfortable. I blew up my entire life because facing the hard work of forgiveness felt impossible, and running away felt easy. The thing about running away is and always end up in the same place alone with yourself and the choices you've made. I thought I was choosing love over duty, passion over security, my authentic self over the person I'd become in marriage. What I actually chose was to become exactly the kind of person I'd promised myself I'd never be. And now I'm exactly where cheaters like me belong, completely alone, with nothing but regret for company and the crushing knowledge that some mistakes can never be undone.